Good morning and welcome back to WKNI TV 25. And we're just so proud to, old Mike was sitting here. Oh, let me change this. Mike and I were sitting here watching the video that we put together yesterday for my son Billy coming home and surprising his kids. And he sat there and he says, that was wrong to do.
Right before an interview is going to choke me up. So,
yeah. Well, I don't think there's a dry eye in the world between WTVY and us sharing that with our viewers. And one of the things I want to say to our viewers out there, not just to the viewers, but to the people that have responded on Facebook and on YouTube, thank you so very much for all the kind remarks. And I'm going to say this, I'm taking some of your time, I'm sorry. But I want to say a special thank you to another unsung hero that's been behind the scene, okay, the whole year. And that's Bridget Lewis, who is Billy's wife. She went through a hard year. And she done well with children. She done well as a mother. I can't imagine. I know as a father it was tough, Mike. Mm-hmm. It really was. And me and you've talked about it, and you know, but seeing that video puts it all together, you know, and the title at the end of it, the beginning, because now he's home. He's a changed man, I'll tell you that. He is a changed man.
Well, I think any parent that has to be away from their children for such a long period of time, it really changes your perspective about your children and about your relationship when you come home. It changes everything, and you know, even the trips I take, which are short compared to your son, but when I come home, I look forward to it.
Oh, man.
And I can only imagine how he feels. It had to be just overwhelming.
And, you know, I don't want to, WTVY pulled it on me this morning. I didn't know they were going to air that video before they put me on for the talk of the town. And I got like you. I was like, you know, don't do that to me. Okay.
That's what, for people at home, that's what they just showed me this video for the first time. And I'm sitting there just trying to hold back, you know, everything. And I said, and now we're going to go straight to an interview. Thank you, Eddie.
And I want to thank the guys over in Op. Great job over there. Thank you for doing what you done, getting everything set up on the station. And we got everything hunky-dory over there. And they're great guys over there as well. But, Mike, we'll have more about Billy. Billy will be on here, and I'm sure he wants to see you. He said he's got something for you. I don't know what it is, but he's got something for you because he really respects you as a state representative. And with him being in the Alabama National Guard, you're actually kind of in an indirect way one of his bosses.
Well, and I would look forward to that. I've gotten to know him a little better through these Skype things when I come for interviews, because they're always you're always usually having those meets sometimes when I'm here, and I look forward to it. It's special when you come home. Like I said, you take stock of everybody when you come home from those kind of tours.
Well, he told me that you and Senator Hawley are on his list to get together with, and
that'd be great.
He'll have a little something for you from Afghanistan, I think. It's not going to be Osama bin Laden, though. They already took care of that.
I'm just glad he's home. That was enough for me and anybody.
Oh, wow. Well, it's great stuff, and we can talk about that, but we got a lot going on right now between city and state and you know, national stuff, which we don't have time to cover the national stuff, because that I got to share something with you. Somebody on Facebook today posted that Obama, people were treating Obama like a god, okay, and that, you know, they were, you know, following him and just worshiping and all this stuff. And I sat there and I smiled and snickered a little bit, and I don't know who posted it, but, you know, I sat there and I read it, and it said, I appreciate you clarifying this, because Obama is a biblical proportion. Moses didn't have a birth certificate either.
Okay.
No comment from you.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
I thought it was cute. Come on now. But anyway, we do have to respect our president and the president's office, and there's a lot of sequestration. Mike, it had to be done, I think.
Well, I don't think they planned on it quite the way it's occurred.
I think the Republicans stood up to it. And,
Right.
And
I think it became a matter of one side calling the bluff of the other. And at the end of the day, I don't think anybody likes it. It's not something that anybody could enjoy. But sometimes to make a substantial change in how you do business, sometimes you have to make a radical, move. And I think that's what's playing out.
well, it is, and I know we're all suffering. I know everybody's pocket strings had to tighten.
It affects state as well. I mean,
Yeah.
not just with the bases, but every state is affected by sequestration.
Well, we went to the meeting last night in Andalusia. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But Teddy Watson, great, eloquent speaker, a great leader of our school system. He's just a wonderful person, but I don't want him back on TV. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Teddy.
Ted's actually a good friend, and you're right. I admire him because he's got a tough job.
Yes.
But if there was anybody ever capable of the job he's tasked with, it's Ted. Ted Watson is very passionate about what he does and about how he takes his job. He cares about everybody in the system, not just the students, but the teachers, and he approaches it from that perspective. And when you've got somebody who cares that much, I mean, you can't help but trust him on every sense of the word. So, and I do. I trust Ted with what he does. He does a great job.
Well, we had fun with him the last time he came on, and he basically took over the show.
Ted can do that. And Ted's a big guy. You better let him do that.
Yeah, I don't want to get on his other side, and I know he can sing karaoke pretty good.
Yeah, but I've also seen him bench press, and I'm here to tell you, just might want to let him take over.
It's all his, okay? He'll be on tomorrow, okay? And we'll see how that goes. But he brought up, the sequestration being, hey, the government took away our part of it. Now the state's having to subsidize what the government took away, and we didn't have anything anyway. And that seems to be what the whole problem is the state. You were on here just months ago talking about we were billions of dollars in debt. Don't know. We had to cut out mental health budgets and things like that. And there's just so many things that we had to take the axe on. And we don't stop and think that, wait a minute, our children are going to be suffering here, and our elderly are going to be suffering, both of them, not to mention us in between. And what do you have to bring us today that says that the state is going to be able to help us out?
Well, we've taken several courses of action. As far as children and elderly, and you know this from talking with me from the past, those are the two groups that I actually spend the most time trying to watch out for and protect. I think every session I've been a part of, I've ended up having to play more of a front role on some of those issues more than I expected. But as far as children go, we did get out an education budget. We have taken steps to invest more in our children, trying to increase money towards technology to our schools, because that's the only way we're going to start taking steps forward. And it's basically about reprioritizing how we fund things, and that's a part of how when you have less money, you got to reprioritize how you take care of things, and so that's what we've had to do. I can say this: budgeting. I think some people, when you hear about budgeting, you think it'd be relatively easy, but when you're talking with the kind of numbers that we do with the state, it's much harder than anybody can possibly imagine. Especially when going in, you're not going to have enough to fund everything. You know that when you start. And so you do have to focus on what's a priority and what's not, and you start from there. And one of the priorities that we do take seriously is investing. We have committed to some bond money to bring more tech skills into the schools, not just like a pad that they can work on, but also skills, so that we can do more dual enrollment with junior colleges and two-year colleges. Also to bring more of those skill classes into the high school. Like when you and I were kids, right, we had those type of skills.
We had drafting,
correct,
we had shop, we had
you even had welding back
welding,
then.
And well, this was mentioned last night. There were 25 technical programs at Andalusia High School.
That's right.
okay, and now we're down to 3.
That's right.
And no music, no ROTC, no. I got to stop, okay, and I know where you're going, and I'm going to go to one of your favorite subjects. All right, you say investing in the children, investing for the future.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to invest in children is through education.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, if we had a great education system, second to none, which we can very possibly do here in this state of Alabama, because we have people that are educators, people that are experienced in education, is our leadership. Okay, you go through the list and the line, and you see you and your family and others up there at the state. They all have some touch, not all, but a lot of them have some touch of education or youth in their lives. Now, with that being said, I know one of the biggest objections you have to one of the things I brought to you several times, and it's one of those right here, lottery. Okay, and you tell me all the time, and you tell the viewers all the time, that lottery brings bad things. All right, but if we invest in the future and educate our children not to waste the money and become dependent upon the system, and we educate them about the laws and what's good and bad and what corruption is. Okay, lots of kids today don't even know anything about the Constitution of the United States. They have no clue who signed it. Okay, that's the way the system works now. If we had lottery, and we can do like Florida, Georgia, and other states around us that are absorbing Alabama money, okay, absorbing it. Okay, everybody's running out buying tickets in Alabama. When that Powerball thing went out, I wonder how many billions of dollars left the state of Alabama, and how much of that could have come back in to support the children and the elderly. So, with that being said, if we appropriately use the monies coming in from lottery, if we had it, even though you are starch against it, can't you see a little bit of light at the tunnel that if we were able to do something like that, that we could actually take care of some of these problems and not worry about the federal government as much doing sequestration?
I do not. I mean, I don't see it the same way, and you know that. I mean, I've never.
I know.
Hid that
I know. It's not surprising me.
And it's probably, some of it's philosophical, some of it's just observation. Some of the states you've mentioned, Georgia and Florida, I have been watching Georgia and Florida. I have been trying to see how they've been handling those issues. And at the beginning, when they brought gambling into their states, they built a lot of schools. They did. They brought in a lot of new things, and they made commitments to educate their students and give them 4-year educations or college educations. And then what happened is that they started taking money away from their education system that they had previously budgeted and relied on the lottery system and those monies. And at some point, those monies flattened out, and they had hit a max or threshold. And now what they're having is they're having some problems with their money and their budgeting because of those same budget problems.
But I qualified what I said earlier, is that if we go into it knowing all these problems and putting the finger on corruption and mismanagement.
Well, I don't know if it's corruption, and I can't say.
I think there's a lot of corruption out there.
Well, and I'll say this: I don't know for a fact that it is. You and I have had this discussion before, and it would not be unusual for corruption to be hand in hand with gambling, and that's generally seen virtually everywhere you see gambling. And that's one of the negatives that usually we discuss as well. I'm not saying that every thought I have is perfect or not. It's just that's the thought, that's my belief, that's how I come to this issue.
But you understand though what I'm saying is if we take the money out,
I don't ignore the opposition. I have never ignored it. I will say this: when I was campaigning 3 years ago and moving all over this district. From time to time, I did get some people that were interested in lottery, but by far, there was more people in this district that were not interested in lottery. And when I represent people in Montgomery from this district, that's how I generally try to approach how I go. And even when you had me on this station, we had some of those debates. every time this issue came up, I was consistent. I said, well, you know where I stand. This is one of those issues that philosophically I've been pretty solid on from the very first day. And there were 3 candidates, and we all had a different position on it, but that was mine. And I made sure everybody knew that going in, that
But
was
you
the
didn't know
position.
about sequestration 3 years ago.
Well, I mean, who did?
Yeah, but I'm saying things change.
Yeah, and I won't say that I've stopped thinking. Once again, I continue to observe the other states around us to see how they continue to handle those issues. One of the things you hear me say, and people in Montgomery hear me say all the time, is I do not believe in reinventing wheels. I believe in looking at what other people have done, what other states have done on different laws, and learning from it. And several of the things, in fact, that I worked on this year, I did take some ideas from other states after observing how they processed, saw some of the errors that they made, and then tried to avoid those same mistakes when we came into those issues in this state. And so I never stop reading and learning. If anybody ever watches me or is around me, especially when we're in session, I read volumes, and I hate this. Sometimes that's to my own detriment, but I believe when you make a decision, when you cast a vote, to know as much about those issues as you possibly can before you cast that vote. To go into it with ignorance is not benefiting people here, and so I make an effort not to. And on this issue, as of this date, I've not changed my position, but I would never say that on any issue, because the world changes and facts do change. I would never say on any issue that I'm beyond change. But on this issue, I've not seen anything yet.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because you were stern on it in the past. Mm-hmm. And you held to your guns on it. Every time I ask you about lottery, no way, no way, no how. All right, now I'm hearing you're going to listen to the people, which is something you always said you would do.
Correct.
All right, and the people are seeing these changes come about as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing the drumbeat a little louder now about lottery. So election is coming up next year.
Well, and one of the things I've done since the campaign time is I continue to move around the district, and whether it be through town hall meetings, whether it be through just visiting, I try to make a point of visiting different parts of the district pretty routinely, and whether it be at a school function or whether it be at a city hall meeting or a community function. And so I have been continually taking in, visits and listening. I really have not heard any substantial change. I'm not saying I don't still have people from time to time coming up and mentioning, just like you do. I think I can count on you every time we meet. That's going to come up.
And can I give my disclaimer here? I am neither for or against lottery, but I'm curious as to why it's not looked at in a more serious note by the state. And when I say more serious note, it's been voted on. Mm-hmm. And it has been, boom, knocked down, I think twice.
I know of at least once, but it could be twice.
Okay, yeah. Maybe once or twice. I don't want to be misquoting anything. But it's been voted on. The people have spoken and said no. All right? That was before when we had 25 technical programs in the schools. That was when we had 25, or a good number of. I
don't think we had 25 when that.
We still had music.
Oh yeah, that. I mean we had more than we have now.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're continually seeing a, come down of what's available for the students. Mm-hmm. We're seeing that a teacher came out last night to the Andalusia City Council meeting and held up books that were printed 30 years ago.
I've seen that myself.
Okay, and there's if we're going to educate our children, Mike. Okay, we're going to take it seriously, then we can't stop and put a doorstop in it and say, we're not going to do this, okay?
Well, I don't think we're doing that. And I think that this session in particular, we've started making substantial steps towards going a different direction. And I have been in the classroom. I've seen my own kids. I know when my oldest daughter was in middle school, she was unable to bring some of her books home.
It's embarrassing.
Well,
it really is.
I don't disagree, but once again, some of the steps we're looking at, and I'll give an example. I'm not sure it's an iPad, but an iPad type of device where you can then get an app for a book that is updated routinely.
Right.
And it's a lot easier, it's a lot more efficient, a lot less costly to update apps on a device than it is to buy books through cycles. And for schools, that's something that we are looking at. That's a great way of savings, but it's also a great way of keeping up to date on the material with much less cost and much more ease just to modify an app. And that's something that we started through this session. Also, once again, bringing those skills back to the high schools. And
they're imperative, Mike. They're
well,
imperative.
I
If we're going
think
to have a working force in this community.
I think one of the things that has been learned over time for years, I'm gonna say probably at least 20 years, there was this belief that everybody had to go to college. Every kid had to go to college, and that's just not correct.
Right.
I mean, we know that, and that's just not accurate. And frankly, some of the kids that are going through these skill jobs and that are going through dual enrollment, even at our colleges here, they're coming out making more money than you and I probably will ever make in our lifetime because those skills are in such high demand. And we can give instruction on those skills now in high school through two-year colleges. And some of the things I learned when I was visiting over at MacArthur is that we've got kids coming out of those schools that within 5 years are making $300,000 a year. Some of these kids are coming right out making $60,000 starting salary, starting wages, some hundred. When you're talking about diesel mechanics, when you're talking about radiology techs, things of that nature, all those different skill positions that are being taught here in our community, and our kids can earn that kind of money with almost no school debt coming out. I mean, that's just crazy not to consider it. And so when I go to high schools, and I've been doing that some in visiting, when I talk with these kids, especially seniors, and many of them are not aware of it, I'm making a real push to make sure they know about that. I've talked with our two-year chancellor and our local president to make them aware that these kids are really not aware of these issues as much as they should be, and that we've got to do a better job of publicizing that. But the key is not to wait to the two-year college. The key is to start in high school and get them going a direction if that's what they choose. And some of these dual enrollment students are starting in high school now, and they've only got a semester remaining when they get out in the two-year college, and they're ready to go straight to the workforce. And that is phenomenal. Almost no school debt or no school debt, and they're making an income, frankly, that's substantially more than most of the parents were able to ever make. And if that's not the dream that you'd want for your kids, I don't know what is. That's huge, and as far as I'm concerned. One thing I can say also, from visiting other parts of the state, from talking with other leaders from across the state, this community is so far ahead and beyond most of the other parts of the state. I had no idea. We've made steps and taking care of.
We just got some kind of award, I think, for the city of Andalusia. The mayor showed.
I believe that's correct, but education-wise, our schools here rank at the top statewide and do every year. Our dual enrollment courses, that flex bill that was passed. The flex portion of it was, in theory, to give the schools in the state the ability to do such things. And what I've told some of the other leaders, I said, guys, we're doing those now. We've been doing those for years in our community, and I can tell you right now, it works. This is phenomenal. We have a lot of students taking advantage of it. I expect we'll have more. Our principals are totally bought into it, and they're pushing these kids to consider these programs, and they're working. And we've had several leaders, quite a number, come visit here to take some observations and some learning.
The mayor made mention of that last night, and I'm not cutting you short, but we got a lot of things to cover.
Well, that's an issue that you and I both agree is probably, if not, is one of the most important issues, if not the most important issue in front of us.
Well, to me, it's the most.
I agree.
Because with the children's education, that makes a better future for everybody, and it's paramount to me to make sure that I make sure our viewers are aware, especially how this station feels on the children and the education. And we certainly stand behind every single teacher, even Ted Watson, and that's a joke.
And we've got 3 superintendents, 3 school systems in this district.
We do.
And we are truly blessed.
All 3 of them are great. I'm singling out Ted Watson simply because he's going to be on the hot seat tomorrow.
But that's one of the things that leadership, teachers, and our schools,
it drains down. But you have to have money.
We do, but I'm going to tell you, these guys, compared to the other schools around the state, I cannot give them enough credit and respect to say that they've done a phenomenal job.
How many more times can we hold up books in front of a crowd of 100 people last night and look at 30-year-old books being used to teach these children? I mean, we may be looked upon by other, cities and around the state, But we have a serious problem we need to address.
We do, and it is the same problem across the state. But as I said before, we started that by starting with this session, making a move towards using technology as opposed to some of the older
6 years,
ways.
Mike, a teacher has not had a pay raise in the city of Andalusia.
This budget did come with a 2% pay raise.
The city of Andalusia?
All teachers across the state.
Okay, see, we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, we got to take a commercial break. We're going to come back. One of the other things that has come to light this past week, and we were talking briefly about it, and then again it involves schools, the tragedy in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot put a tag on that for just, you can't imagine it, okay, what these parents are going through with this school being totally devastated and children being killed instantly in this type of situation. Well, we had the shooter program that went out here, and the state passed extra money to secure the schools with certain security on the doors and stuff like that they can get. Mm-hmm. That's good, okay? Now are we thinking we had Enterprise, 8 young children killed, okay, right here at home. We see what's going on around the country with storms and tornadoes. What can we do to protect our children in the schools from major storms? There are school systems in this state that do have storm shelters in their facility.
Well, and let me start with this.
Well, I want to answer that when we come back.
Okay.
Okay. And I feel that's a need that is coming to light as time changes, and we didn't have this stuff before that we knew. Mm-hmm. So, folks, we'll be right back more with Mike Jones Jr., our state representative. I don't know if I introduced you properly earlier. We were talking about.
I think we're good.
But we always enjoy you coming on, Mike, and you don't worry about what's coming from this side of the table. You know that we're sincere in what we do. We'll be back. Oh, and he's happy because all he has to do is walk across the street from now on, probably in his next interview when we move up on Court Square, and that's going to happen within the next couple of weeks. But, yeah, you and the mayor, boy, the mayor's like, yeah, thanks. You don't like getting up that early. But anyway, we'll be over there on the Court Square. We'll talk more about that later on. But right now, we need to take a commercial break. Remember what you have to say sitting over there?
Keep it real.
Keep God in it. We'll be back with more right after these messages. And thank you, Op Cable Vision. Welcome back to WKNI TV 25. Boy, aren't you lucky for that clock?
I am.
The countdown going to the background, and me and him were going like that. And we just smile at the camera and go, okay, we're back.
I'm actually kind of laughing too, but go ahead.
Yeah. But, Mike, we do appreciate you coming on, and you've got such and I'm going to say it, and I'm not trying to be, if you have an opponent this time coming around or whatever, I'll be just as nice to them, I'm sure, unless they're not nice to me. But, I'm that way. I like to treat people the way they treat me, and you're a very fair and upfront person with me here at this studio and on our TV station, and I want people to know that, because when we're off camera, we talk about other things just to talk about them, and because you've already covered the stuff straight up, there's no, well, you should say that on camera, there's none of that.
No,
you'll say it right here,
right,
and you have no problem, and you got that list faxed to you what time that all the questions I was going to ask you?
I have no idea what you're talking about. You've never once done that, but I've never asked for that. So.
No, you haven't, and we don't do that here. We come up, and you don't see, there's nothing in front of me. I'm just coming, this is stuff that I hear from the people out in the streets, and it's the real stuff. It's not the, let's make it up or what's a fad right now.
Well, but you've known me long enough now. That's one reason I enjoy town hall meetings is, and there's no script for a town hall meeting.
Oh, yeah, we saw that at the last one. That guy had you down for how long?
Well, but that's part of it.
Yeah,
and not everybody's always perfect and happy, and that's why. But we want to hear from that. That's when we learn things, we can go back.
Have you ever wanted to tell somebody to just shut up?
No, I mean, I haven't.
I don't think you're being honest.
No,
right?
I'll tell you why I haven't. Even with the gentleman that was talking on that particular town hall meeting, is that was important to him, and it meant a lot to him.
That's fair.
And he needed to get that off. And after he got through talking, after he got through saying all that, and after the meeting had sort of ended, he and I sat there and chatted for a good while, and very cordial, very nice. And after he had a chance to get that off his chest, honestly, he felt better, and,
Right.
and he wanted somebody to listen to him. And that's part of my job, is to listen. In fact, it's a huge, important part of my job is to listen. I can't speak enough on that. So when I go to these town hall meetings, to a degree, I expect that. But I don't run from it, because for me to do my job, and I'm also going to give Senator Holly a plug here.
Oh, yeah.
Senator Holly and I both, in fact, he and I were talking yesterday, kind of wrapping up from the end of the session, just kind of talking to each other about some things that are still out there. And when we got through talking, he said, "All right, Mike, when's our town hall meeting?" I said, "Jimmy, I'm working on it. Let me get back long enough to schedule it, and I'll get it set up." He's at the point now where he looks forward to them just as much as I
We're
do.
talking about that here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he enjoys them. He enjoys the people contact,
Right.
and he enjoys you because you lead it, and he gets to sit back and just fend off a few questions out
Well, and he may have said this, he may not have. When he first started these things with me, he was a little hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like me. He's now at the point where he just really enjoys it. He's seen how much people appreciate just setting those meetings and just being out in front and giving them some good information to start with. But after that, open for them. Hand them a mic. Let them start asking questions and talking.
I think the next town hall meeting should be held at the Presswood Building in the big parlor that's over there on the right where receptions are held. Okay, and we'll cover it live.
Well, honestly, we haven't set a time or place. One thing you've seen that I've done, and I really make an effort of this, is to move around.
June 30th.
We're trying to move around the entire district. One of the things that was important to me when I campaigned is to not exclude any community. And so what we've really worked hard to do is we try to set one town hall meeting in one of the larger cities and rotate around. And we try to set another one relatively soon after that at one of the smaller communities that typically would not have such a meeting. And we've done that because we want to treat everybody the same and give everybody that opportunity. And so, we've had meetings in Wing, we've had them in Red Level, we've had them all over. We're going to continue to do that.
Florilla.
Correct. Andalusia, we've moved around. One of the things that we're going to be taking in some other communities into the district in 2014, and I'm not one to wait. I like to go ahead and be more proactive, and so it's my hope that we'll set some meetings in some of those new communities as well.
That's fair.
To let them learn how we do things and give them the same opportunities. So Kinston and I know will be coming in to our district. I think we need to give them an opportunity. I've been in Bruton quite a bit.
Great folks over there.
Yeah. So those are things, but town hall meetings and just being open with people, that's part of the job.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I think that it's a great asset to both you and Senator Holly to make these things happen, and the general public's out there, and you've done well at them. We've been to several of them, and you guys are out there, stone stepping is what I call it, right on the ground. Boots on the ground, as my son would say.
Well, we don't always tell everything cheery. We'll be very upfront and truthful. If we know there's some things that are going to be tough, we say it. We don't hide it. And I know that not everybody appreciates hearing some bad news, but I'd rather be truthful and say it than it come out any other way. And Jimmy is just as much a believer of that as I am. So it's worked out very well.
All right. We left earlier on another note with the storm shelters as a possibility, or you're not saying it, I'm saying as another highlight of something that we might do to protect our children. During the shooting that happened up in Connecticut, the other shootings that have happened around the country, the state of Alabama stood up and made something happen, and that is two things. One, they promoted and supported the active shooter program for law enforcement, to where they are trained to go in on an active shooter as an individual or as a team, and it hopefully will either prevent or end a situation a lot quicker than what has been happening in the past.
And locally, our law enforcement has been practicing those skills.
That's right, and very, very good.
Right.
And you know, I want to make sure that everybody knows that our law enforcement's prepared. Okay, should that unfortunate situation happen, we have some very forward-thinking people in charge of our local law enforcement.
Correct.
Except for Chief McDonald. No, I'm sorry. Did I say that? I'm sorry, Chief.
You know, if anybody knows Mike, Chief McDonald, they know he's about as proactive as they come. So.
Oh, he's just waiting for me now. But anyway, no, we do have a lot of positive things in this community. Now, we've seen several tornadoes around the country. Nobody really moved on what happened over in Enterprise. They were like, you know, that's terrible. 8 children killed, you know, an entire school lost. I'm not saying it didn't move. I'm just saying it had emotional strings, but it didn't have, wait a minute, let's do this and fix this. Okay? 8 children lost their lives. Now, if that school would have been built better or whatever, I don't know. We had this conversation off camera.
Right.
All right? This F5 tornado that went through Oklahoma, I don't know if there's anything that could have withstood that. But can we give our children and the parents a little comfort, you know, down the road possibly of looking at possibly putting storm shelters in the schools?
Well, there's several things that I can say. One is after Enterprise, statewide, and I know it's been a while, so we tend to forget things after a while. The schools across the state did reevaluate procedures, reevaluated as far as locations, safe zones. Also, when schools are being built, they reevaluated building safe areas through engineering. And you know, but as we said off camera, there's only so much you can do. An EF5 tornado, that's power beyond imagination.
210 miles an hour winds at this tornado.
You know, such tornadoes have hit here in our state. You remember a couple years ago, and some of my friends who were on the ground after that told me firsthand that that tornado dug into the ground 6, 7, 8 feet.
Sucked the dirt right out.
Correct.
Of there.
I mean, it left nothing, and it doesn't matter how strong you build something with something that's that much force and power. You can prepare to a point, but you know, as we said, and I'm a person of faith. When the Lord calls us, He calls us, and you know, that's one reason we have to be prepared for that on a daily basis. But we do as much as we can, and I know that our schools have spent a great deal of effort reevaluating procedures and what to do. But some testament of that even occurred in Oklahoma. What little I've been able to listen and read about it is that the teachers, you know, their training kicked in, and I have no idea how many students, but students were saved because of their training. And I will say also faith. Hearing that teacher talk about praying, I'm personally of the opinion that played a direct role, and we have that here too. So we do what we can. As far as shelters, we're at LBW Community College. They're building some apartments. Sometimes I make the mistake and call them dorms. Dr. Rydell gets on my case about it, but
he will quickly.
But
they'll correct that paper real quick.
There's 2 buildings over there, 2 apartment buildings being constructed. And in between them, as part of that build up, they put in a storm shelter and a tornado shelter, and it's a strong, you know, steel case structure that, frankly, it looks like a bomb shelter. At least what I would visualize. But if an EF5 tornado even hit that structure, no one can know if that would withstand it or not. I mean, we would hope that it would, and they would have a better chance in there than most any place else. But something of that magnitude and that power, no one can predict that.
Well, thank you on that. We're going to continue this if you got time.
Sure.
This is going to be an extended interview with you because there's a lot of things that happened this year at the state, and I'd like to give you the opportunity, okay, to share with our viewers what happened at the state. I mean, you came in here regularly after meetings and or after session and told the folks what was going on. Gun control. I want to talk a little bit about that. Definitely want to talk about the general fund because that was a big issue here just this past beginning of the session. and where that went to and how that's come out. Some laws have been passed that are like, really, did that really finally happen type laws, and just some great movement in the Senate, or not in the Senate, I'm sorry, in the House. The Senate had a lot of issues.
Jimmy had a tough job this year.
Boy, I don't want to allude that Jimmy is I saw a different side of him, okay, when we would talk about that, and he was embarrassed,
Yeah.
with what was happening there. This whole thing about what do they call that, filibuster? He said it was just so abused.
Yes.
And you don't get things done when that happens, and but how many filibusters did we have in the House this year?
If we may have had some, what I'm gonna call short ones, some day, half-day long ones, but we closed them out pretty quick.
Yeah, I think y'all got a baseball bat hid somewhere, and you just go bam.
Well, I mean, having good debate is appreciated.
Right.
Having just a waste of time when you have so much you want to do to help the state. It's part of the process, and we know that. But at the same time, at some point, it's enough. Let's move on. And
Well, we're looking at if any of our viewers out there have one, okay, because I want to give it as a gift to Senator Hawley next time he comes on. I want to get him one of them sheep herders hooks, okay, and wrap it up and hand it to him so when he goes back next year, he can have something he can reach over and yank people off.
I'll say this: Senator Hawley doesn't need that hook. He's able to handle many things without that hook. That's one of the blessings we have with Senator Hawley in the Senate representing us. He's one of the most knowledgeable of the rules of the Senate as anybody up there, and he makes that known from time to time in a big way. And that's one reason why he's such a great asset. I speak very highly of him because I believe that. He and I have become extremely close. I think the world of him. He brings so much wisdom to the job. He's been there long enough to have seen things cycle through more than once, and I very much enjoy working with him. And what we were over at HOP last night, and I was telling some of the volunteer fire departments there when we were handing out some grant checks, that one of the benefits that we have that goes probably unappreciated because you don't realize how big a deal it is that when we're in session, I'd say the majority of House members and senators from their matching districts do not get along that well. There's so many personality conflicts and other things that happen. Jimmy and I work so well together that is truly a blessing because we can help each other so much to help our district. That he runs things and helps things for us on the Senate side. I do the same for him on the House side. And having that working relationship means so much. It helps so much.
We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, I want you to cover all that, but one of the things I'd like to start out with is redistricting.
Okay.
Okay, there is a new thing coming up, and that's happening when?
2014.
2014. And there's an election.
2014.
And so we've got a lot happening in
2014.
But we'll be talking to our Representative Mike Jones Jr. on many subjects. We're not going to do it today, but when we move to the new studio, and I know you're game for it, we talked about it, we're going to open up that phone line.
Sure.
And have people call in and talk to you because I think you've got enough respect out there that people don't mind asking you direct questions. So starting our next time, we'll go ahead and take phone calls and have folks calling in, and it won't just be Eddie. And we'll screen the calls. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The only way we can screen them is make sure that we have a caller ID, because we'll call them right back if they be stupid. And
well, for me, that'd be not a whole lot different than a town hall meeting.
Right.
The reason why town hall meetings are also good, though, is most people at a town hall meeting are not going to say something that's disrespectful.
Right.
Because
we never had that before.
Right.
Right. When we opened up the phone lines before, we had 99.9% of the callers call in. Now, somebody may throw out a snide remark while they're there, but that's their opinion,
Right.
That's their remark.
Right.
But we didn't have anybody get stupid with somebody. And I think our community is much more intelligent
And I
than
agree.
that.
I've never really had that problem
Yeah.
either.
But I just wanted to open that up to you and let our viewers know when we get to the new location on Court Square,
Okay.
we're going to have the open phone lines and offer it to anybody that walks in. So remember,
Keep it real.
keep God in it. We'll be right back with more right after these messages. Thanks for tuning in.
And so to grow, we had to geographically spread out. And so we've right now, District 92 is all of Covington County and about a third, give or take, of Escambia County. It will grow to where we'll get geographically almost half of Escambia County, and we'll take in probably almost a quarter of Coffee County. And the portion of Coffee County that we take in includes the Ino community, it includes the Kinston community, and also part of the area that's north of the Ino community, not quite to Elba, almost, but not quite to Elba.
So there's more, more responsibility.
Well, geographically, it's a pretty large area.
Wow.
But that's that's part of it, and that's I've already been working and getting to know some of the people in that area.
How do they feel about it? Do they feel like
so far I've had nothing but great response. Mayor Mullins over in Kinston, he and I've met a couple of times already. We're
great guy, by the way.
Wonderful, wonderful guy. He and I have already discussed as soon as the session was over, he was going to let me have a few days to kind of get my feet back under me. But then he and I were going to try to meet for about a good half day and let him show me around and show me some issues that they're concerned about. I was in Elba a week ago with the governor and with Senator Holly and Representative Charles Newton from Butler County, and announcing a substantial road project where we're going to continue Highway 84, four-laning Highway 84 across Coffee County. And that's good for District 92 now.
Right.
Anything we can do to keep 84 four-laning expansion continuing across the state is good for us. It helps with traffic, obviously, but also helps with these large trucks doing transfers across. That brings fuel purchases into our community. That brings food purchases through our community. That increases those kind of monies coming in. Not to mention it helps through getting jobs. If a company can establish here and know they've got a great means of transport east and west on a four-lane, I mean, that's wonderful news. So that project is going to expand by approximately 16.8, 16.9 miles. It's going to be over about a 4-year period of time that the project bids will be let, be in 4 increments. One of the increments is only a mile and a quarter long, and the cost of that mile and a quarter is $24 million.
Wow.
The reason it's some bad areas, and they're going to have some bridges to be built in some areas, and these are, when you have a 4-lane, these are some substantial bridges, and so it's a costly portion of the expansion, but it shows the commitment by the state and by the governor to continue helping business grow in this end of the state. And once again, I can't say enough. It impacts very closely to some of the new area that we've taken in District 92. But it also impacts us right now. Like I said, it's a good thing. It's roughly, John Cooper, the DOT director, told me the total benefit or total cost of what's going on to that expansion is roughly $90 million. That's a very large commitment of funds to helping roads down here in this part of the state.
And that's great. And now you brought me into another thing that I'd like to talk to you about is the 4-lane coming out of Georgiana. Coming all the way down to the McKenzie area,
Right.
and then going to come all the way to River Falls, okay, and then it stops being 4-lane.
Well, let me talk.
Well, I'll say it's still 4-lane, but it's not.
Right. You're saying where it dead ends is
Right.
into the River Falls area. Well, let me first start back. Let's start back at the Georgiana portion that's been under construction forever.
Right.
I spoke with Director Cooper while we were meeting last week and asked him the status. He told me, and I already knew some of this from talking with locals in that community, whenever that project was being worked on, for whatever reason, they built part of it over a swamp. And when you build a road over a swamp,
That's not a good thing.
it brings whole new problems. And they were constantly putting in, filling in that area.
With fill.
Correct.
Right.
Well, and every time they thought they had it filled and they were ready to start preparing the road for asphalt, it would sink. And so that happened 3 or 4 times. and Director Cooper told me they've recently paved a portion of that. In fact, I think all of that new portion of that road. However, while it was being inspected, they already saw cracking, which means it was some other still going on. And so he said they have required that the company that's doing that project continue to take care of that problem. They didn't want to sign off on that project until that problem had been remedied completely. And but I asked him if he had a timeline, and this is probably one of the most common questions I'm asked when I go around talking to different groups, is when is that going to be finished? Director Cooper told me that he did feel safe in saying he thought it would be complete by the end of the summer, and that it would be in use by the end of the summer. And if you're ever driving that way, and I do often,
I do too.
There's a lot of activity at that area now at both ends of it, so that we can make the connections. But if you'll notice, there's also a great deal of activity on the road itself. So I do think they're working pretty hard to finish it up.
Well, my question then is, great, they come around and there's 4-lane going all the way down to the bypass around Andalusia, bringing people in for this, beaches and all that. And then they get down there by the elementary school and they got to make a left-hand turn if they're going to the beaches on a 2-lane road. And is that a state road?
I believe so.
Right.
And once again, all these projects are on lists to be worked on, but it's like everything we've talked about this morning.
Right.
You prioritize the projects. 84 because it's already been expanded and it's already a part of that expansion, and it's a US 84. Some of the monies are coming directly from the federal government that are being routed through DOT to those projects. It's not saying that we're forgetting about other roads. It's just saying prioritize.
That's why I'm asking, because 84 is a federal road.
Correct.
And therefore there are federal funds. I'm asking about the state and state road, because we're looking at Highway 55, that is a state road.
Right.
And it's 2-lane down on the south bypass, and then you make a right-hand turn, and it's 2-lane all the way down to Florella.
But once again, in fact, most of the money that's coming through DOT originates from the federal government.
Okay.
And so even though we're saying US 84 is federal, it is, but that money's still coming through Alabama DOT. And so it's not like a direct check being sent from the federal government for that project. And that's, once again, it's about prioritizing. And when you're looking at the major routes, statewide, the governor's been trying to work the major routes, because that's usually going to, in a positive way, impact industrial recruitment the quickest.
Right.
And some of these other roads are going north and south, and I know we're looking at some of those roads, 331, 55. We're looking at those roads. Enterprise is looking at one of their roads, 167 through Coffee County. And every county across the Wiregrass is looking at similar roads.
North and south is a very needed access, because it's a seasonal income to a lot of the communities, and every one of them, hey, I'm all for that.
But once again, you can't fund them all, and so it starts with prioritizing your projects. And that, unfortunately, I'm not the one who gets to pick which one,
Right.
which one gets to be prioritized.
A lot of the rumor out there, a lot of the sentiment out there right now is that it's going to dead end over there at that light. Okay, the straight from Georgiana to there, and then it's going to bottleneck coming through River Falls and then going across into the Andalusia, and it's not going to be one of the most chosen routes to come. A lot of folks still travel straight down 65 to go to Panama City Beach.
Actually, I'm hearing more and more. In fact, even while I'm in Montgomery during session, more and more members are telling me how they're now coming through Andalusia, heading south to the beaches than they were before.
Because they like you.
Well,
and they want to come and say wave at you.
What they're telling me is that they have discovered it's the quickest route, and we've been preaching that for how many years now?
Arguably the quickest route.
Well, from what they tell me, they see that it is a quicker route, and I always say, oh yes, of course. And while you're coming through, stop at some of our food places and some of our gas stations and purchase some. But I think that our county wide has been working much better towards servicing people as they're driving through, and that helps too. When you come through a community and people are nice and people treat you nice, it makes you want to come back as you come through and do it again. And I heard that a number of times from different members and their families as they came through, is that one of the things they noticed is when they came through this area, how nice people were. and that's a factor. And I'm obviously biased. I think that we do treat people very well here, and that's one of the things that I push when I try to tell people
Well,
about
they
our
meet
community.
Sue when they go by.
Well, we have lots of Sues, and
That's to be good about her. She's my buddy over there in your office.
She is, and Sue takes care of me like nobody can, and she's been with me so long now. Like I said, she's practically a blood
She must
relative.
be kin.
She might as well be.
Yeah.
I think the world of her.
But we're going to take another one of them breaks.
Okay.
We're going to come back, and it's your microphone. And,
Okay.
and I pretty much got all my questions out of the way.
All right.
And interests that I've been hearing out there. Y'all went into this session in the red big time. Okay, when you come back, where are we at now? Okay, and are we still in the red, or are we looking at some black up there? And to see which way the tide's going. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I'd like you to consider talking about your campaign that's coming up here just in a few short weeks. It begins. I mean, you can begin there. And have you heard of any opposition yet? I know there's probably somebody out there that they always do,
Right.
but it's important to let folks know that well, I'll tell you who said it best, and that was Judge Trippy McGuire. I asked him one day, when do you start campaigning?
Never stop.
He never stops.
That's right.
And you've been busy working, and you've been out there, hoofing it, and we're proud of you here. We appreciate you, and just want to hear some of the things and thoughts you have. So, with that all being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Keep it real.
Keep God in it. We'll be back with more right after these messages. Welcome back once again to WKNI's Good News. And once again, we have Mike Jones Jr. staying with us and talking about what's going on over there. We've covered a lot of issues.
We have.
And I like the way you answer them. I mean, you're just straight out, agree, disagree, but you're there. This session, you went into it, back in January or?
Early February.
February. And you went in there with a load of issues.
Well, I did intend to. I intended to go in with about 4 or 5 bills this year. Last year about worked me to death, and I was trying to be a little more focused this year. But as sometimes happens, things change, and this session, this is the 3rd regular session I've been a part of. It was definitely different than the previous 2. It was very contentious, a lot of tough issues and tough votes. There were several votes that I voted very much different than my caucus and the party that I'm a part of, and so it was definitely a different kind of session. However, we did accomplish a great number of things. Some of the things that I worked on locally was to help the junior college system here, the 2-year college system, when they're building these apartments. It was the first time that the school foundation program had done anything other than give scholarships. That foundation program, that's what they've been set up for, and that's what they've always done. But they needed to have tax exempt status so that they could put more money into those apartments and also reduce the amount of cost for the students when they would be living there. And so they approached me before the session started about a bill that would give them tax exempt status. We filed that and got that through for them, and so they have. So that's going to that'll make it less expensive for students in that housing. So that was a local thing that will help the kids here. And that tax exempt status is to our school foundation, our college foundation. And that had the support of everybody here. There was nobody against that. Anything that can help, once again, our 2-year education system, we're all supporting of. I had another local bill that just got passed, frankly. I had it passed through the House and 2/3 through the Senate, but it's been pending on the Senate floor since February, along with about 100 other bills. But it was, because we pre-filed it and we had it up early, it was one of the first bills addressed yesterday or Monday. And And so it's passed, and this was for the sheriff. Whenever he had officers retire, he wanted to be able to give them a plaque with their badge,
Right.
and also many of them had a service gun. In the old days, they said a service revolver. I think these days it's not actually a revolver.
Service pistol.
Service pistol. But under Alabama law, they could not do that without having a local law giving them the authority to. And the sheriff approached me a long time ago about this issue, and asked me if I would be of assistance. And many counties in our state already have the same type thing. Our county did not. And so to make it legal and do it correctly, he asked if I would help with that type of local bill, and I said, of course I would. And so that passed the 30th legislative day, finally. We actually had it passed every other part, probably within the first 8 legislative days. But that's one of those issues we had to worry about this year. There were other issues that I worked on. One was HB 8, and this is something we've talked about, and this is some people are calling it the Second Amendment bill. It's a constitutional amendment to our Alabama Constitution, and our Alabama Constitution had language very similar to the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The difference is, under the U.S. Constitution, the Second Amendment is a fundamental right, and it received a level of review in the appellate courts of what's called strict scrutiny. Unfortunately, under our Alabama Constitution, the same type of language did not receive anywhere near that same level of review, which is not good. And
Right.
so we filed this bill to make our law stronger, our Second Amendment law stronger in our Constitution, and it passed through both houses. And as I was saying off the air, this bill passed on the 30th legislative day in the Senate with about 20 minutes to spare in the session. And so it just came through. The great thing about this bill is that it now goes to the people. This is a constitutional amendment. That means it's voted on statewide by the people of the state. And so on the 2014 ballot, the November ballot in 2014, everybody in the state will have the opportunity to vote on it. Louisiana, the state of Louisiana had a very similar issue, almost identical issue in their last statewide vote. 72% of Louisiana voters supported it. It's my belief that we'll have at least that many in Alabama, and hopefully more. But it's been it's an issue of great concern, and that many Alabamians have spoken about and have worried about. And so this is the way we can resolve some of those concerns. There are other bills that I worked on. One bill that I worked on that has already been signed by the governor is a law type bill, and this is one that is designed to help foster care children and to help the process of those children getting into stable homes and stable families much quicker. Unfortunately, in our state, the average time for a child in the foster care, once that child goes into a court action to terminate parental rights and then move that child into a foster family, on average it was taking 38 to 40 months for that to take place. And in some cases it was taking as long as 7 years. And frankly, you'll have a child in the foster care system in this state grow up and never make it into that stable family and be adopted because the process was taking so long. And so this was a bill that was actually the speaker approached me about if I'd be the sponsor. He knew that I had an extensive background in family law. The DHR Commissioner, Nancy Buckner, also met with me and talked with me about it. It was something that included DHR. It was going to make it harder on them, but they wanted to do it. They felt like it was the right thing to do. And then we had a number of family groups that also approached us, and foster family groups that were saying this is something very much needed. And when I looked into it more, once again, our community, our area, we've been blessed. We've got judges here that take these cases very seriously. They set them very efficiently. And so here at home, we've not had as much problem as some others, but across the state, the average was very high. And this new law that has now been signed by the governor should reduce the time that a child in the foster program goes into the court system and comes out, should reduce it down to approximately 16 months, which that is an enormous decrease in time that we can get these kids into stable families much, much quicker. And that was something that, in fact, I'm wearing this, and I don't usually wear things like this, and everybody who knows me knows that I don't like to wear things on my hands and arms much. When we were at the bill signing ceremony, I had a foster mother come up to me and give me this and asked if I would wear it. And she was about as close to tears as anybody could be. And by the time she was finished talking to me, I was about as close to tears as anybody could be. but she was recounting her experiences and how her a son that she had through the foster care program that had been in there for years, I think close to 7 years, was about to graduate high school, and the social worker was at their home visiting the child as they're required to do, and the young man told his social worker that he wanted to graduate with his foster family, his soon-to-be adopted family's name, and wanted this process to be over before he graduated, and it meant so much to him. And she recounted how that social worker was obviously in tears by the time that meeting was over, and I still get chills thinking about the story she told us. And frankly, when she told me that, I've made it a point of wearing this about as much as I can to help educate people and teach people that adoption and foster children is something that if that's in your heart, I can tell you it obviously is of great benefit. I didn't know that our governor had two of his children are by adoption.
Wow. And
he has 4 children. And while this bill was going on, he was almost in tears and was telling the story of how this bill meant a lot to him on a personal level because of his life and his experiences. And honestly, it was a great thing for our state because it helped promote taking children out of the foster program and adopting them, and making people aware that it can be done so much easier than in the past. So this was a bill that was of a special note to me and a special importance to me, and it's something that truly can help statewide everybody, but also here it can help a great deal. There were some other things that we worked on. One of the bills that also passed at the very last moments of the session was an e-cigarette bill. And
how'd that come out? It went through?
It went through. It passed the last night in the Senate, and I was on the Senate floor. We actually had one senator that wanted us to work on it a little bit, and so we handled some language issues for that senator, and we had to take it back down to our floor in the House and concur, and we made that happen. We had to do it rather quickly, but we were able to make it happen, and it happened within the last hour or so of the session. But for those who don't know, e-cigarettes is a non-tobacco product that you see in a lot of convenience stores now. But because it's non-tobacco, the tobacco laws didn't apply to it. And so children could literally buy this product legally in our state. But it's designed to try to get people off cigarettes, off tobacco products. Right. But it still gives a nicotine push. Most of them have nicotine built into them to help smokers come off cigarettes. And that's not something we want children using any more than we want them smoking cigarettes. So that now has the same restrictions in place as tobacco products do, and that's something that frankly it needed to happen. A bill that we did also pass, and we passed it, the Senate version, was the disabled veterans hunting bill, and this is the one that allows disabled veterans half price on the yearly hunting permit. And the reason for having any fee on it is that our state receives a large amount of money from the federal government based on the number of hunters that get permits. And for us to be able to track the numbers, we have to have some fee method for them to do that. If it was totally free, frankly, most of them wouldn't come in and get a permit, and we can't keep up with those numbers. What it also does, though, is that if you've seen on television, you'll see these 3-day hunts, these weekend hunts for disabled veterans. and they're great events. Our state, because of the vast number of deer we have, and our weather is not as extreme as other parts of the country, and we have so many hunting lodges, it's grown in this state. And so not only is it a great thing to do for disabled veterans, but it's also a great thing tourism-wise for our state, that we can bring more and more disabled veterans in to hunt in Alabama. But this bill allows on one 3-day hunt license, whether you're in state or out of state, 10 veterans can be listed on the same permit. And so it saves a tremendous amount of money.
It is.
For that. I think that permit is normally about $300 some odd. So instead of each of 11 disabled veterans having to pay for that, only one will be paid, and they can list 10 more names. And so it's a tremendous savings. It'll promote these programs and these huntings.
$3,000 savings.
Correct. Yeah. Tremendous. But it also brings more of these hunts into our state, and we want to promote that. That's something you're going to see conservation really promoting.
And you're helping out the elderly as well, because
That's correct.
Most disabled veterans,
Correct.
Well, I say most, a lot of them are in that age group.
Correct. And so that's something that I really see that's going to be a great benefit and a great help. Some other things that we worked on, and some of these things, I had a House version, but a senator had a Senate version, and because of strategic reasons, sometimes I intentionally would, on the House floor, I could have passed the House version, but if I would substitute the Senate version that's already passed, it immediately goes to the governor for signature. And rather than risk or gamble problems on either side of the House, I never worry about having my name as the first name on these. It's more important to me to get good legislation to the governor for his signature. And so some of these bills, that's how they would come through. One of the things that we had is the pretrial diversion program for municipalities. And one of my jobs, one of my hats that I wear is a city judge. Pretrial diversion is, and this bill is HB 648. It went through the Senate on the 30th day, this last day, but it's an enabling act. It allows any city, any municipality in the state, if they choose to and if they want to, they can set up a pretrial diversion program. And this type of program is, I'll give you some examples. Let's say you've got a young person, a student, who gets a DUI or gets some what I'm going to call stupidity crime. And they don't have any history.
See a lot of those.
Yeah, and they don't have any history of any of these kind of issues. We don't want to hurt someone like that for the rest of their life. We want to help teach them, hopefully, a lesson that they can learn from it and move on with their life, and then know enough from that lesson it won't be another problem. And so we want to give courts the ability to work with, especially young people. But it doesn't just apply to young people. It can apply to any age, but especially young people. And frankly, when you see kids going to and from spring break, and we get a lot of those kids through here, and you'll have kids that have 0 on their records, and they're stupid. They do something totally dumb, and this gives them a way to learn from it. And I'll give you some examples. Some of these pretrial diversions include writing an essay, a substantial essay, many hours of community service, so they can learn the repercussions and have some of that learning punishment side of it as well. And also it has them paying into a certain amount of cost to programs, which once again help benefit these type of things. So they don't get off scot-free by any means. In fact, sometimes it's actually worse. Probably many of them might, at the end of the day, wish they just pled guilty to it as opposed to this. But if they do these things, it'll take it off their record, and they can then go on with life, and hopefully this won't punish them in their future with their job applications and so forth. So this is something, but we didn't have this in our laws to allow cities across the state to do this. Now we had some other things, but those are some of the big issues.
Mr. Jones, how is what you're talking about with the young people and making mistakes, how is that different from the youthful offender status?
Well, and once
How is
again,
it better now?
sure, youthful offender status only applies up to someone who's 21 years of age. And on their 21st birthday, they lose that ability to have YO status, youthful offender status. And once again, this can apply to young people, not just kids, but young people. And so it can apply beyond, at 21 or beyond. And a lot of these college kids are 21-year-olds going down the beach. Once again, no history whatsoever, and they're about to go into the job market, and they do something dumb. And so YO would not apply, and this gives these local courts the ability to work with these people.
All right, you see I pulled up this over here. You didn't, okay.
My eyes aren't as good as...
Okay. SR, let's see, it's SR 286.
SB 286.
Or SB, I'm sorry, 286. I want to put HR for whatever. Is it HR? Yeah, whatever.
Well, when you say HR, it's a House resolution.
Right, and then
And
SB.
And SB is a Senate bill.
Senate bill, okay.
Right.
I remember that little guy rolled up in the paper dancing around saying, I'm a bill. You remember that?
I do.
And this is how it works. But I didn't hold on to it. What happened with that?
It went into a conference committee, and the conference committee continued to work on it. It came out of conference and was passed on the House floor the last night. And I actually brought a copy here. I felt like it might be one of the issues you'd probably ask about.
It is.
SB 286, in fact, I've already had calls from some of our locals about this since yesterday when I was coming home, and even last night. And I'm sure I'll get more. But it's when you pull up this bill, if you go to Allison, which is the legislative website, You'll have to go to the history to see the final version. Probably the better way to pick up the final draft of this is as the Secretary of State's website, as they enroll it and it goes online with the Secretary of State. That'll be the final version, the one that would be signed by the governor. That's the best draft to pull. The reason why I say that is if you look at the amendments page or if you look at viewing the bill itself on Allison, those are some of the original drafts. This bill had changed probably a dozen times as it came through the process. And you remember one time I told you that I've learned not to read the bills until they get to the end of the process. This is an example. If you read this bill all the way through the process, it actually started closer to probably 60 pages in length. It weaned down to about 35 and a half pages. But you could have read this bill 10 times, and it was a little different every time.
Right.
But the final version, once again, Secretary of State's website or Allison, but look at the history, and it'll be the last conference committee bill on the history. But it's a substantial piece of legislation.
It's important.
It is.
It has to do with open carry and the licensing and things like that. Right now, the state of Alabama is an open carry state, and there's certain areas that you can't carry a weapon into. You can't go into the courtroom.
Well, and that's one of the things that was addressed is there were so many gray areas about what you could or could not do. That our law is open, our state is open carry, has been, but it's really been more out of default. It really was not. There's not something specific that really kind of guided you on where you could and where you couldn't. And the point of this legislation was to be more specific about where you could and where you couldn't and how you could. It addressed some things that I know was important to a lot of people around here. To give you an example, to legally carry a gun in your vehicle, it's considered a concealed weapon under the existing law, the old law. And so you'd have to have a concealed weapons permit. And if you didn't have one, technically you're committing a crime if you were transporting a firearm without a concealed weapons permit. Well, what if you're going to the gun range? Or what if you're going hunting? Or what if all these different things that people do that, inadvertently or without knowing it, was a violation. This corrects that. It now says that you don't have to have a concealed weapons permit to transport, but it does say that you have to take certain precautions. You can't have it in arm's reach. You've got to have it secured, things of that nature. And so that way it doesn't require, some people may not want a concealed weapons permit. They don't have a need for it. And so it wouldn't require it.
Wouldn't be in your car, not an open carry?
Once again, this bill says you don't have to have that. The existing law, before the governor signs this bill, says that's considered concealed if it's in your vehicle.
Contradicting.
Well, that's just what the law's been for quite a while.
We got contradicting laws on that. All right. Well, I appreciate that. So it's not done. It's still in the works.
Well, it's passed by the legislature. It's in front of the governor. I don't think he signed it yet.
Y'all passed it, but it's not a done version?
Yes, it's a final version that we passed legislatively. The governor has to sign it for it to become law.
Right. But can the Senate still...
House and Senate of sine die, we're done for this session.
All right.
So
it'll remain 36 pages.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And when the governor signs it, and this is what I was looking at, it says the act shall become effective on the first day of the third month following its passage and approval by the governor, or it's otherwise becoming law. And in other words, 3 months after the governor signs this, it becomes law.
Okay, great. All right. The little piece of my ear sat there and said, you got to ask him this before he leaves.
Go ahead.
All right. The state of Alabama, City of Andalusia just raised its taxes 1.5%.
Okay.
How much out of the 9.5% now in the city does the state get?
I honestly, I don't know the exact number, and so I would be guessing at that point. I know that city and county get a portion, and it's typically...
the county gets a portion
correct.
as well.
City gets a portion,
so
county gets a portion.
The city's going to get 3.5.
Okay.
So that leaves 6.0. I believe the state gets 4. Okay. So that's 7.5. So the county gets 2.
So
Okay.
my math says 2.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'm sitting here. I've been up almost a solid week.
I understand completely.
You saw that video, but we've been busy with that. Well, Representative Jones, I appreciate you coming on. We did do an extended version of it. There's just so many things we'd like to cover with you, and you know the door's always open here, and we'd love to have you back and talk some more about things. We also want to get you on, not now that you're out of session, and let's talk about the City of Andalusia court system.
Okay.
I think that's it intrigues me. I do get to get down there every once in a while, and it reminds me of Night Court. Remember that show?
I do.
And you don't look anything like whatever his name was, but you do look
What was
like.
the judge's name?
What was his name?
Harry.
Harry. That's right. Oh, Harry. You don't look like Harry, but you do remind me of Mel Torme, the pitcher. And
Okay.
well, yeah, but I don't know if you can sing or not.
No.
But that was Harry's little picture that he kept, on the side. But, oh yeah, Harry Stone, Judge Stone. That's right. But we appreciate you coming on, Mike, and hopefully the new office will be ready for you here in the next few days. We're going to maintain this. This is going to be production for the ministries and things like that, and keep that going up here. And then down there, it's going to be our live set.
Okay.
So we're really excited about it. The city has been wonderful working with them. We're excited. I mean, that's great stuff. And then we get to throw rocks at you as you go by.
Well, I'm hoping I'll be there a good bit. I need to get
We
back.
can go live from your office from there.
Well, I mean,
We can
frankly,
actually put a cam up there in your office and check in on Mike. What's he doing? Let's see.
I think my office is good, looking forward to me coming back and working full time again. So,
Oh, we are too. But you got a campaign.
well, that comes too. That's just part of the process too. But I got to tell you, that's the part that I enjoy.
Are you going to get help for Sue this time? I saw that poor lady out there digging with post hole diggers, putting in your signs.
Sue is. I don't think you could stop Sue from doing things like that. Sue and I.
I walk out and I wouldn't even recognize her. She was just covered in dirt from head to toe, and I go, "Who is that woman?"
Well, if you know Sue, as much as she works with horses, that's not an uncommon.
Oh, that's
thing.
true too. Which,
works
by the
with-
way, Saddle Club
Right.
is having their thing this Saturday,
Right.
and we announced that earlier. But y'all come on out to that.
Sue's not afraid to work. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. She's that's my lady, and I'm getting choked up. Jeez, but again, we appreciate you, and looking forward to having you come back. No dates for the town hall meeting yet.
Not yet. I honestly haven't even been to my office yet to even take care of scheduling this. We came
You've
here.
been taking phone calls in between.
I
but
have, and I dropped my daughter off to school this morning and came up here, so I haven't been to work yet.
if anybody's at the elementary school, he's on his way. So we heard about that. Mike, thank you.
Yes,
God
sir.
bless you. Folks, Mike Jones, Jr., our state representative here with us this morning. We appreciate him coming in. As always, we were going to see if we can't get Senator Hawley on in the next week or so and see what we can find out on the Senate side. That's it. I want to thank once again Cablevision or cable company over there. We had a glitch in the system since about 8 o'clock last night, and they were able to fix it for us, and I want to say thank you to the cable system. We got great cable systems in this community. We really do. I mean, if you go other places in the big cities and big towns and stuff, you don't have this kind of personal touch.
No.
You may be days waiting for somebody to take care of a problem. But anyway, we thank him as well. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
Keep it real.
Keep God in it. Love y'all.